Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. So I wanted to talk today about the great encounter between Prophet Musa alayhi salam and Khidr alayhi salam. As you know, this is a symbolic of the joining of the two vast oceans of knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls their meeting place Majma' al-Bahrain, the joining of the two oceans. So Musa alayhi salam, he gives a speech, and someone remarks that, "Oh Musa, you must be the most knowledgeable person in the world." And Prophet Musa alayhi salam doesn't correct the man, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to him and says, "Oh Musa, how can you claim to be the most knowledgeable when we have Khidr with us?" And Khidr means the evergreen, the undying. And so Musa alayhi salam says, "Ya Allah, I would like to learn from him and become his apprentice and disciple." And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him instructions on where he can find him. And Musa alayhi salam sets out on a journey with his servant. And the story in the Quran begins with Musa alayhi salam telling his servant that, "I'm going to never give up looking for this place, the Majma' al-Bahrain, or I'll keep on going or I'll die trying." In other words, Musa alayhi salam is on this journey of knowledge, and he's a prophet of Allah. But because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him about this great person, Musa alayhi salam is now seeking him out. He's looking for him. And the journey is not an easy journey. He's going through a lot of hardship. And he's telling his servant about his aspirations, about his himmah, that he's never going to give up looking. And this is proof in the Quran that, when you're seeking religious knowledge, you need to find its people, you need to find its teachers. And there are teachers for every science of Islamic knowledge. There is a teacher for it. If you want to learn tajweed, you have to find a teacher of tajweed. If you want to learn tafsir, you have to find a teacher of tafsir. And there are authentic teachers and fake teachers. But ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection from the fake teachers. So Musa alayhi salam, he's been informed by the highest authority. This is an authentic person, an authentic teacher. And so he's looking and he says, "I'll never give up or I'll die trying, until we find this place where the two oceans meet." And the signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him is that the type of knowledge he's going to encounter is going to bring the dead back to life. And one of its signs is when he's in the proximity of this person, Khidr, who's evergreen, the dead fish is going to come to life. And subhanallah. And that's symbolic also that, that we are this fish out of water, and we're looking for our way back to the ocean. La ilaha illallah. So what happens? They finally stop at a spot, and Musa alayhi salam is tired. His servant, and some of the scholars said his servant there was Yusha alayhi salam, another prophet. So they set up camp and they fall asleep. And as he's falling asleep, Yusha alayhi salam, he notices the fish jump out of the basket and go into the sea. And he's half asleep, half awake, so he doesn't really think much of it. Next day Musa alayhi salam wakes him up, and with a lot of energy, we gotta get moving. And so they start walking. They spend half the day walking until they're tired, they're exhausted, they have nothing else left to eat. So Musa alayhi salam says, "You know what? Atina ghada'ana. Bring us our food. لَقَدْ لَقِينَا مِنْ سَفَرِنَا هَذَا نَصَبْ." Like, we have had a very difficult journey. That's when the servant remembers. "Oh, remember that last place we rested? The fish, it jumped out into the sea, and I forgot to mention it." And subhanallah, he says, وَمَا أَنْسَانِهُ إِلَّا شَيْطَانًا أَذْكُرَ. That I didn't forget except that shaitan made me forget. Here we see the blame put on shaitan, because he's on a spiritual journey. He wants to find a source of knowledge from which he can drink from. And what's going to divert you away from that path? What's going to distract you? What's going to make you forget? Nothing except shaitan. So he says, وَمَا أَنْسَانِهُ إِلَّا شَيْطَانًا أَذْكُرَ. So Musa alayhi salam says, ذَلِكَ مَا كُنَّا نَبْغِ. This is what we're looking for. So they start retracing their steps until they come to this place. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِّنْ عِبَادِنَا. They find one of our servants. آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا. We had granted him special mercy from ourselves. وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. And we had taught him knowledge from ourselves, from our presence. And so Khidr alayhi salam is given two very important things. Number one, he's been given mercy from Allah. So everything he does is out of mercy. And number two, he's been given knowledge. So he's been given some of the knowledge that is not acquired knowledge. It's knowledge directly from Allah. So our ulama, they said that knowledge, if you want to understand its reality, all the knowledge is already inside you. But there are people who dig for this knowledge, and there are people whose knowledge springs out from them. And so there's acquired knowledge, ilm kasbi, and then there's knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, allows you to access, which is ilm ladun. It's a knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you imagine a well, right? Some of the well that gushes out from under the water becomes a spring. Some of them you have to dig for it until you reach the water yourself. So now this is the meeting place of these two knowledges. And Musa alayhi salam has knowledge of the Sharia, knowledge of the law, knowledge of the legal rulings, the asbab and all these things. Khidr alayhi salam, on the other hand, has a different form of knowledge. And Musa alayhi salam has no clue about it yet. So Musa alayhi salam says, will you take me as your disciple so that I may follow you and learn from you? And Khidr's response, he sizes up his students. And this is how you know real teachers. They look at you and they can tell, this guy's gonna make it, this guy's not gonna make it. So Khidr alayhi salam says, إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. Like you're not gonna be patient with this. Musa alayhi salam says, Inshallah, satajiduni inshallah sabiran wa lama asi laka amra. Like you'll find me inshallah patient, and I'm not gonna disobey you. Like I'll do what you say. Please let me learn from you. So Khidr alayhi salam, he puts a condition. He says, the only condition then is don't ask me any questions until I explain things to you myself. In other words, be patient and don't say anything until the explanation is given to you. But if you don't understand, just stay quiet and trust. Musa alayhi salam, of course, he's a man of justice. He's a man of law. So when he embarks on this journey, he has no idea what he's getting himself into. Khidr alayhi salam, his first thing is they start looking for boats to cross over a sea, and a poor fisherman gives them a ride and he puts a hole in the boat. Musa alayhi salam, he sees what just happened. He says, you're gonna damage their boat? These people are nice to us, and he says, didn't I tell you don't ask me any questions? He says, oh, I forgot. Give me one more chance. They come to this land and they see this child playing in the playground, and Khidr alayhi salam walks up to the child and kills him. Musa alayhi salam is outraged, like, how could you do that? This is an innocent kid. He says, didn't I tell you, you can't handle this stuff? Musa alayhi salam says, okay, fine, one more chance, and then you have excuse against me. And they go to this other town where they ask for hospitality, and nobody gives them hospitality. These are travelers, they're hungry, they're tired, but no one opens their door for them. And then while they're in that state, Khidr alayhi salam walks up to this wall that's crumbling down, and he rebuilds the wall. Musa alayhi salam says, why didn't you ask for some payment for this? We could have gotten some food. Khidr alayhi salam says, that's it, man. هذا فراق بيني وبينك. This is where we part our ways. He says, as for those things, let me explain to you. He says, the ship that I put a hole in it, he says, belonged to poor family, and this was their livelihood. This is their livelihood. And they, and there's an evil king coming and taking all the ships by force to go to a war with his navy. So when he finds his boat damaged, he will leave them be, and they can repair it and go back to their livelihood. He says, the child I killed, his parents are righteous people, and this child is going to grow up to be a very, very, very corrupt person, and is going to give them hard time. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to take him and replace him with someone that will be a coolness of the eyes for his parents. And then he says, as for the wall, under it there's treasure buried, and it belongs to 2 orphans in the city, and their parents were righteous people. He says, if it crumbles down, the people will find it and they can't defend their treasure. So Allah wanted them to grow up and become strong until they can find their treasure themselves and defend it. And then he says, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ أَنْ أَمْرِي. This was not my doing. In other words, all the things that you saw happen, I was not the one doing them. وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ أَنْ أَمْرِي ذَلِكَ تَأْوِيلُ مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. And this is the explanation of the things you can be patient about. So what we get from here is the Prophet ﷺ said, may Allah have mercy on our brother Musa. Had he been patient, we would have learned much more. That there's a clash between the two forms of knowledge, the knowledge of the spiritual realities and the knowledge of the physical realities, and there's a balance between them. There are people who start to delve into the spiritual realities and they completely neglect the law, and there are people who delve into the side of the knowledge of the law and the physical realities, and they completely neglect the spiritual. But there's a balance, there's a meeting place between these two oceans. That meeting place is the culmination of a perfected human being, someone who can balance the spiritual knowledge, the haqa'iq, and the physical world's knowledge, the sharia and the law and all these things. Ultimately, the balancing of these two fields it's not easy, but it takes effort, and it takes, because we're always leaning to one side or the other. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said his way is the balanced way. Allah, He didn't make us in charge of the world in a sense that you are responsible to fix what's happening. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us responsible for our hearts. And the condition of the world, Allah can change it in an instant. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see what we will do with our hearts, with all these things that's happening. Are we going to form negative thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or are we going to realize that there is a wisdom behind all of this? There's a reality that's there that we don't see yet. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, He will show us. وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. Right? This is not my doing. So have patience. Inshallah you'll see. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.